When you're spiraling, the worst thing you can do is believe your own thoughts.
You're listening to Overwhelmed Working Woman, the podcast that helps you be more calm and more productive by doing less. I'm your host, Michelle Gauthier, a former overwhelmed working woman and current life coach. On this show, we unpack the stress and pressure that today's working woman experiences. And in each episode, you'll get a strategy to bring more calm, ease, and relaxation to your life.
Hi, friend. If you're human, and I bet you are, you've probably had a spiral. A spiral is when your brain grabs onto one scary thought about the future and then stacks another one on top of it, and another one on top of that, and another one on top of that. And pretty soon you're catastrophizing your entire life from a single email or mistake or a perceived worry. It can sound like this. You get an email from your boss where she asks you if you're still on track for a deadline. And she thinks I'm behind on this project. What if I do miss the deadline? If I miss the deadline, I'm going to lose my credibility. If I lose the credibility, I'm going to lose my job. If I lose my job, what am I going to tell my family? Oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to make my mortgage payment. Oh my gosh, the economy is so bad. I am totally screwed for life. You're in the spiral. And when you're in the spiral, you're really unable to do anything productive to try to make that deadline. The only thing being in a spiral means is that your nervous system is activated and it's asking for safety, not necessarily answers. So in this quick episode, I'm going to show you how to recognize when you're in a spiral, give you some exact words that you can say to yourself to slow it down, and then as a bonus, how to identify what fear might be underneath it without letting that fear run the show. Today's episode is sponsored by Cozy Earth. One of the things that I like to focus on is making my home feel like a haven of love and care and comfort. And Cozy Earth really can help bring a little indulgence to your everyday life. I feel like when I'm in their pajamas, which I've talked about before, how amazing and perfect their pajamas are, and then I get into my bed made with Cozy Earth sheets, it feels like such an indulgence and such a perfect way to end a day. Because you know what? Life can be hard and days can be stressful. But it's such a nice way to end the day and get a great night's sleep. If you try them, you can sleep on them 100 times. And if you decide you don't love them, return them hassle-free. You can't lose. Use my code OWW for Overwhelmed Working Woman for 20% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention that you heard about Cozy Earth right here on Overwhelmed Working Woman. Okay, let's get back to what you should do when you're in a spiral. The first thing that you should do is notice it and name it. So a spiral isn't something only happening in your head. It shows up in your body, and sometimes it's actually easier to notice it in your body first. Feelings show up differently for everybody in their body, but things that I usually hear when people are in a spiral, when I say, how does it feel in your body? They say there's a tightness in my chest, or I'm breathing really shallow. Maybe your heart's racing, or you have a buzzy, restless energy. Maybe you've got knots in your stomach or tension in your jaw, or your neck, or your shoulders, or this urgent need to do something right now, but you don't exactly know what. What does it feel like for you when you're in a spiral? And if your answer is, I don't know, that's okay. Just try to notice it next time, or think back to the last time you were in a spiral. And sometimes that will recreate the feeling in your body, which you can then just shake off. For me, it definitely feels like a tightness in my chest and like a spinning in my head. I feel like a spiral is actual spinning around inside my brain. There's a little tornado in there. So figure out what it feels like for you. And then when you notice those physical feelings, you can say, oh, okay, I'm in a spiral right now. Or my nervous system seems to be activated. Or I'm not calm enough to decide anything just yet. Or wow, my brain is really worrying this all the way through to the bottom. Naming the spiral creates space between you and the thoughts, and it helps you see that you are a person who is currently in a spiral instead of you being the spiral. Now that you've identified that you're in a spiral, your goal isn't to fix anything. It's just to slow the spiral down, or maybe even just interrupt it. You don't have to say a ton of words. I'm going to read you some phrases that you can borrow and just listen to them. And if one of them sticks out to you, seriously make a note in your phone or write it down on a Post-it note so that the next time you realize you're in a spiral, you can say this. Here are some phrases you can try. Nothing is required of me right now. Sometimes your brain is telling you, hurry up, you got to do something, you've got to fix everything. Another phrase is, this feels urgent, but it's actually not an emergency. Or even just, this is not an emergency. I can pause before I decide what this means. In this moment, I am okay, or in this moment, I am safe. Sometimes it's really helpful just to narrate what's going on. So another phrase you could use is, I can see that my brain is spinning right now. My brain had some scary thoughts and I don't need to react to them. I can just watch them. I can just see them, but I don't need to do anything. So at this point, you have noticed you're in a spiral. You have chosen one of those phrases to borrow. Nothing is required of me right now, or this is not actually an emergency. And from there, you should start to feel a little bit of lightness compared to what you were feeling before. And that is because you have looked at where you are from the outside versus just being in the spiral. The spiral is usually caused by fear, some kind of fear of the future. So when the spiral slows down a little, you can gently get curious without judgment. Here are some of the main fear culprits that I see when I help my clients who have been in a spin. Is it a fear of disappointing people? A fear of getting it wrong, like it not being perfect, a fear of being judged, a fear of losing control? You don't have to push the fear away. Again, we're just accepting what's going on. Just name it. You can say to yourself, oh, this is my fear of disappointing people. Something that I say to myself is, oh, this is my fear of making a mistake. My fear is trying to protect me, and I can see that. So you don't need the fear to disappear to calm down. You just need to stop letting it drive the bus, so to speak. So today we talked about how to recognize a spiral by noticing it in your body, what to say to yourself to interrupt it, and then how to identify the fear without judging yourself for having that fear or letting that fear take over. I'm a life coach. I've been a life coach for 8 years now, and I find myself in a spiral at least once a week. This is just human nature. I'm much better about it than I used to be, but I still get this. So if you're a person who spirals, or your best friend is someone who spirals, forward them this episode. Or if it's you, save this episode or make some notes on your phone so you know what to do next time this is you. Remember, spiraling doesn't mean anything has actually gone wrong. It just means that your nervous system needs some reassurance and that there is some fear driving your thoughts. Thanks so much for listening today. I am grateful to have you as a listener, and I will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Overwhelmed Working Woman podcast. If you want to learn more about my work, head over to my website at michellegothier.com. See you next week.